Hello everyone, Happy New Year, Tina here. That kind of rhymes. But thank you so much for joining me. Today I'm doing 10 cards, 1 kit with the Spellbinders Card Kit of the month for January 2019. If you missed the unboxing, I'll link it at the end of the video for you guys. But we're going to jump in with our first card. Now I do pull in some glue and some foam tape. Other than those, I use everything that's in the kit. This kit is jam-packed, filled with goodies, so I had no problems coming up with 10 card ideas. So we're going to make 10 cards today. I started off by trimming down 2 pieces of the pattern paper from the 6x6 paper pad. Next, we're going to use the typewriter die that came in this month's kit. This is the pre-scored cardstock that came with this month's kit, and I'm not going to use it as a card base because the kit does come with 10. I'm going to use it to die cut out my typewriter. It's a little bit on the thicker side, so I thought it would emboss beautiful, and it does. So using my Platinum 6 and the embossing sandwich, I'm going to run that through. And the typewriter die, actually all the Spellbinder dies have beautiful embossed detail. I'm just going to punch this out and show you on the little pieces too. This is where your tool-in-one comes in really handy. You just use the brush to punch out those little pieces. It does have a slit on the top to add your paper, but the embossed detail is just gorgeous. Love that. After our typewriter's done, I wanted the typewriter keys to stand out. So to do that, I'm going to add a piece of black cardstock. Now, this did come from last month's kit. This month's kit didn't come with black cardstock, but any cardstock you have in your scrap pile would probably work great. I just glued that behind my keys, and then I'll trim off the excess. Lovely. I love that embossed detail. Now, also, the typewriter comes with a little rectangle die that cuts out a piece of paper that will fit in that slot. So we're going to use that to cut out this pattern paper here. I'm just going to tape it down and die cut this out so our paper size is the perfect typewriter size. We're going to stamp our message on this piece of paper here. I'm going to heat emboss with some white embossing powder, so I went over my pattern paper with my anti-static powder tool, and then using my Versamark ink, I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says I love you. I'm going to stamp it 3 times, kind of evenly spacing them. And then using white embossing powder, I'll go over my stamped message, and then we'll use the heat gun and go ahead and melt that. It's going to really pop against that pattern paper background. Okay, we're going to slide that through our typewriter, kind of wonky, and we'll secure it to the back using our double-sided tape. Now the double-sided tape that I'm using is actually from last month's kit. Your kit will come with a full brand new roll, but I wanted to use up this roll before I started my brand new roll. I'm going to use the end of a paintbrush and kind of twirl up my paper just to give it a little bit of added dimension. And our sentiment is ready to go. Next, we're going to take our card base. I'm using the card base that came with this month's kit. They come with 10 card bases, so all 10 we're going to be used today, and they are A2 in size. I'm just going to tape down my pink and white stripe paper to the left of my card base here. Any excess overhanging we're going to trim off. And we'll do the exact same with our black and white stripe paper. We're going to place that in the center, just so the pink's peeking out on the left and right. Lovely. Now using the foam adhesive that came with this month's kit, we are going to add a few pieces behind our typewriter. And then this is going to go directly on our card base. I grabbed 2 pieces of the ephemera pack. I'm going to trim off 3 of the hearts from this strip here. And then using my foam tape, I'm going to use my scissors and cut a thin strip of it. Place that behind our little hearts. And this is going to go right below our typewriter. I'm going to add a little color down there. And then we're going to add a little bit of dimension to our heart and arrow using some foam adhesive as well. And I think that looks so cute. That finishes off card number 1. Okay, we're going to move along to our next project. I have some more of the ephemera. I used almost all of the glittery hearts. I actually kept 3 aside. We're going to use some of those for some more cards. But I'm adding some foam squares behind each one of these. And we're going to use the XOXO as our sentiment. So I'm going to add some foam tape behind here as well. I'm going to add one more piece on the side. Now I cut out a panel with white cardstock with the texture side up. This is the cardstock that came with this kit also. And I'm going to kind of arrange my hearts a little bit wonky, going from the top right corner, kind of trailing down to the bottom left. And then just to bring some of that blue from the heart down, I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to place one piece above the sentiment and one piece below it, just to spread that color out a little bit more. After we have that done, we're going to use our double-sided tape and adhere this to our card base. Making sure it's opened on the right way. There's been a few times where I've opened my card and it's been the wrong way, so I always double check. Now we're going to use some of the sequins. They came in a cute little jar, but just because they're different colors and I'm only going to use the white ones, I poured a little bit in one of my little bowls, and we're going to add a few here and there, and then that completes card number 2. Okay, for card number 3, this is a super easy one because we get to use the 3D stickers. Super cute. I cut out a square with the black and white stripe paper, and we're going to adhere this directly to our card base. We're going to put it on the bottom. This is going to leave me a little bit of a border around the bottom of my card base. Once we have our pattern paper adhered, we're going to use one of our hearts, and we're going to tape that down as well. Lovely. Okay, I'm going to use the little flower die that came in this month's kit that has the little heart in the center. Using white cardstock, we're going to die cut out a white flower. And I wanted that little red heart in the center to kind of be colored with our heart that we taped down to our card base. We're going to add a little bit of dimension by using some of our dimensional adhesive, and we're going to add some squares behind our flower. And I used every last drop of that little foam sheet. Okay, before I press it down really good, I want to figure out my placement. We're going to add our typewriter, and it has foam adhesive behind it already, so we didn't need to add any more. We're going to tuck a little bit of it underneath there, and we're going to use one of the hearts from this set too, and place that on top. And that finishes off card number 3. Super easy. That's what I love about the 3D stickers. Okay, card number 4, I cut out 3 strips of the pattern papers, 3 different patterns. They're all the same width, and we're going to I'm going to fishtail the ends, and we're going to layer them all together on the left side of the blue cardstock that came in the kit. And again, I'm using it with the textured side up. This panel here is, I believe, about a ½ inch smaller than my card base, all the way around. After we have our banners attached, we're going to add some dimensional adhesive behind our little birdies. We're going to place them in the center of our panel. And then in this month's kit came some real pretty glittery alpha stickers. I'm going to use the the uppercase. On the reverse side of the sticker sheet is the lowercase, but I wanted all uppercase, and I'm just going to place XOXO right below the birdies here. I'm using my tool-in-one to make sure they're evenly spaced, and before I pressed them down really good, I made sure that they were where I wanted them to be. For bells and whistles, we're going to add 3 of the little hearts in the little sticker sheet here. And then we'll flip this panel over, add some tape behind here, and place this on our card base. That finishes off card number 4. Super cute. Here's some close-ups. Okay, card number 5. I cut out a strip of the same light blue cardstock, and I'm going to use the XOXO die. I'm going to place it on this strip, tape it down, and run that through my die cut machine. And then I'm going to do this 3 times on the same strip. So I have XOXO all along this strip. Just making sure they're evenly spaced. Once we have that done, I'm going to mat this on some white cardstock with my glue. This way the inside pieces will just pop, and it'll really make those XOs stand out. Lovely. Now we're going to stamp our sentiment. I'm going to be using a piece of the red cardstock that came in the kit. It was actually the cardstock that was meant to be a card base. It was scored, but I'm going to use that as regular cardstock. We're going to stamp our sentiment. I'm going to stamp it with my Versamark ink, so I went over my cardstock with my anti-static powder tool, and then we'll use some white embossing powder to go over our sentiment. I use my Mini Misty because this is a little bit of a slick surface on this cardstock, and I didn't trust myself with a block. I was afraid it was going to slide. So the Misty works great for this. We're just going to go ahead and melt that and then trim it down. Next, we're going to adhere our sentiment to our XOXO panel. And I put tape on the wrong side, so I got to add one more strip. And we'll just making sure it's even, and we'll put that right below it. Okay, super cute. Now I cut out a strip of the pink and white diagonal stripe paper. I'm going to adhere this actually to the, right now I put it on the top of the XOXO. I changed my mind. I wanted to put it below my sentiment on the red cardstock. So we're just going to tape that down. Next, we're going to place this on a panel, which is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I'm figuring out my placement, and then I'm going to take the love from the ephemera pack, and I'm going to stick that behind the XOXO on top left here, or top right. Any excess overhanging I'm going to trim off with my scissors. Lovely. And then we'll take this piece and add some dimension behind it. I know I didn't have enough foam dimensional adhesive to pop it up, so here's where I brought in some of my own foam tape. And so this step is completely optional. If you don't want to add dimension, you could just glue this down to your panel. We're going to adhere this towards the bottom, lining it up with the grid lines on my mat. Lovely. Next, we're going to use our tape and adhere this to our card base. This is going to be a landscape style card. We'll adhere that. Now we're going to take some of our epoxy little or enamel hearts, and we're going to use the red and the pink, and then the light pink and the dark pink. We're kind of alternating the colors, and I didn't have enough pink to make it a uniform pattern. So I'm going to take the very first heart that I had glue down, and we're going to flip for the medium tone pink from the red, if that makes any sense. So the red, we'll start off with the red, and then the light pink, and then the darker pink. Kind of created a little bit more of a balanced color there, but that finishes off that card. Okay, card number 6. We're going to use our pattern paper here. This time I'm going to use, it's almost like a chevron print, and it's a neutral tan color. And I'm going to also use a piece of this pink and white stripe paper. I'm actually, first I was going to angle the end, but I thought that was too sharp of an angle. So I'm going to cut out one more strip, and we're just going to block it off. We're not going to angle the end of this pattern paper. And then for my chevron piece, we're going to trim that down. We are going to trim it down 1/4 inch shy of an A2 size card base, at least on the left and right side. I'm going to take my scissors, and at the angle that the chevron print is, I'm going to trim around there. So I have a nice little pattern on the top and bottom. Now we're going to go ahead and grab our sentiment. And for this one, we're going to just stamp with my VersaFine Onyx Black ink on a piece of white cardstock. And I did use the texture side. I didn't know how well it was going to stamp, but it stamps good on the texture side. I'm just going to use my paper trimmer, and we'll just trim this down to a strip. For this card, we're going to use the balloon ephemera piece and also the love. And I got my sentiment crooked. No, we're going to straighten it out just a little bit. Okay, we're going to start off by taping down our pattern paper to our card base. And I used the rest of that roll, so I'm going to open up the roll that came with this month's kit. Okay, we'll place that in the center. Lovely. Now we'll take our diagonal stripe pink paper here, and we're going to adhere that. Before we adhere that down, I kind of wanted to position where my balloon was going to go. So before I press, I'm going to kind of play around with the placement. I think there looks great. Any excess overhanging, we're just going to trim off. We're going to add dimensional adhesive behind our balloon. I did bring in my own foam tape for this. And again, if you don't prefer not to use foam tape, you don't have to. I think it would look fine without the dimension. Now I'm going to use the foam tape that came in the kit. I'm just going to cut out some thin strips and then place that behind my love sentiment. The only ephemera pieces that I doubled up on were the hearts. Everything else I only used one of. So if you wanted to make 2 of these cards, you could. I'm going to finish it off with some bells and whistles using the iridescent sequins that came in the little sequin bottle, and that finishes off that card. Okay, for card number 7, this is super easy because we're going to be using the 3D sticker. This cute little teddy bear holding the heart. I just think he's adorable. I'm going to tape down my stripe paper to my pink pattern paper that's slightly larger, and then this panel is going to go on my card base. It's going to leave me a little bit of a white border around my card base, about a 1/2 inch around. No, maybe a little less than 1/2 inch. Okay, next we're going to use the little envelope that was in the ephemera pack. We're going to add some foam tape behind here and add that. And then we'll add our little 3D teddy. Lovely. We'll use the sentiment that says hugs and kisses and place that right below. And then we're going to do a little bit of finishing touches with the teal colored enamel dots. And that finishes off that card. Easy peasy. Okay, card number 8. We're going to do a little stamping with the stamp set. In the stamp set, there's love, hugs, and kisses. And they're all in the same font with periods on the end. So I have a strip of white cardstock, and I did use the smooth side for this. Using my T-square ruler, I'm going to draw a thin line about a 1/4 inch from the left edge. This is going to be my guide as I do some stamping. I'm going to do repetitive stamping. So we'll stamp once using some VersaFine ink. We'll ink it up again and stamp a second time. And one more time right below. And then I decided to take off the hugs and kisses. And then we're just going to stamp one more love right below our last sentiment there. Lovely. Okay, next I'm going to use my pencil eraser and erase my pencil marks. And then I did cut down a thin strip of the tan. It was the chevron striped paper. I just cut out one of those strips, so you couldn't see the chevron, but you could see the diagonal stripes of it. We're going to tape that down right next to our sentiment. And I had a runaway jewel picker. I think that looks great, but I thought we would need a little bit of more color in there. So I want to trim down a thin strip of this real pretty pink pattern paper. And then using my glue, I'm going to adhere that right next to my sentiment. Just add a little pop of color here. I'm going to use my paper trimmer and trim down that bottom portion. And that's ready to go. I'm going to use my card base, and I decided to add some foam tape behind here. And again, this is optional. If you don't want to add, if you don't have foam tape or you don't want to add it, this would look nice if you just use your tape and adhere this to your card base. I'm going to adhere it all the way to the right here, leaving a little bit of a border. Next, we're going to take the little camera that was in the ephemera pack, and then I'm going to use those 3 hearts that we cut from an earlier card. I'm just going to separate them with my scissors. And then I did add foam tape behind each one of those. We're going to add one piece behind our camera on the left side, and then the right side we're going to add some double-sided tape, because the right side is going to overhang on our sentiment panel there, so I wanted it to be nice and even. We'll place that on our card base along with our 3 little hearts, and then we're going to leave it at that. That finishes off card number 8. I love the way that turned out. Okay, card number 9. We're going to use the green cardstock that came in the kit, and using one of the leaf dies, we're going to die cut out real pretty leaf. And then I'm going to use 2 of these hearts. I'm going to create my own 3D sticker by layering 2 together. We'll layer the pink right in the center of the red one. Next, I have a piece of, this is actually my card base. I just placed the entire card base in my mini MISTI, and then using my leaf that we die cut out and our little 3D heart kind of as a placement guide, we're going to add our sentiment. Since I am stamping on my card base, I know it's textured, so I didn't want to take the chance of messing up, and so I'm using my mini MISTI to stamp my sentiment. I'm going to ink it up a few times with VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Next, we'll go ahead and glue down our little leaf, our stem with leaves, I guess. And then we'll figure out our placement, and then I can press down. And then I'll add some tape behind our little heart. This one was a super easy card again, but sometimes I think simple is nice. going to kind of tilt my heart a little bit. And then I'm going to use the 3D sticker that was left from, which one? From the typewriter 3D sticker. And I'll place that right below our sentiment. And that finishes off card number 9. Okay, for my final card today, I'm going to use some pattern paper. I think this blue is so pretty. And I'm going to trim it down to 4 inches by 5 1/4. So it's going to leave me a little bit of a white border on my card base. And then using the typewriter paper die, I'm going to cut out a window in this panel, a little bit towards the top. Next, we'll flip this over and add some foam tape, or not foam tape, excuse me, double-sided tape behind this. And then we'll tape this down to our card base. Making sure it's centered. And then we're going to use some ephemera pieces. So these 2 little hearts here were from the teddy bear 3D sticker sheet. And then I grabbed the I love you for my sentiment in the little bird cage. I already added foam tape behind there, and I'm just sticking them down to my card base along with my little 3D stickers. So this card was super easy, but I love the outcome. I love the colors. For finishing touches, I want to add a few of the sequins. A couple of them stuck together, so I was separating them. And that finishes off my final project for today. Now we get to take a look at all 10 cards that we made with the Spellbinders Card Kit of the month for January. Love this kit. It's fully packed. I hope this gives you some ideas and inspiration on how to use this kit. Links will be down below in case you're interested. I think it's a great value, guys. And I had so much fun creating with this kit. Love those 3D stickers. They're just adorable. But I thank you so much for stopping by. I wish you a fantastic day, and we will see you again soon. Bye-bye.